Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating, deeply personal journey into the psychology of emotional defense and resilience. We're looking at all this through a really specific lens, from our source material, the architecture of Saturn in the 8th house. Whether you're already deep into astrology or just really fascinated by human psychology, what we're fundamentally looking at today is how a person learns to protect themselves and, ultimately, how they learn to thrive. We're going to break down exactly how these emotional walls get built, why they actually serve us, and how they eventually transform into our absolute greatest sources of wisdom.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever wondered why you might walk into a completely normal situation and immediately start calculating the risks, while the person sitting right next to you is just blissfully unaware? Seriously, take a second and consider your own unconscious anxieties. Why do some of us naturally see hidden threats where others literally see none? Well, that right there is the central mystery of our psychological arc today. We are looking at a personality structure that is inherently wired to look beneath the surface. It's such a compelling puzzle, you know? How does a mind that is constantly running on high alert finally learn to rest?
Section 1. The instinct to protect.
Before we can even talk about emotional mastery, we really have to look at the very first phase of this journey. This is the stage where your raw, instinctual need for safety essentially overrides absolutely everything else. Emotional vulnerability? Yeah, it rarely comes easily. And if that resonates with you, I want to point out something absolutely crucial right out of the gate. Taking a little longer to trust people, that is not a character flaw. It's not some glitch in your system. It is a deeply, deeply ingrained survival instinct. Our source material points out that people with this specific psychological architecture instinctively look for risks before they ever open up. You're literally scanning the perimeter of someone's character before you even think about lowering that drawbridge. You don't just hand over your trust, right? You require it to be earned, verified, and totally stress-tested.
And this instinct, it manifests in some highly specific unconscious defense mechanisms, preparing for worst-case scenarios, sensing hidden threats, carrying these totally unexplained fears, and honestly, it can be frankly exhausting. I mean, imagine sitting in a perfectly quiet, completely calm room, sipping a lovely cup of coffee, and a part of your brain is just quietly calculating your escape route just in case a meteor strikes the building or a sudden betrayal happens out of nowhere. You're just constantly anticipating what could go wrong. But here's the thing. These unexplainable fears, these anxieties that seem to have literally no direct trigger in your present moment, they're not random, not at all. They stem from much deeper emotional patterns and unconscious concerns that are basically just constantly running in the background of your mind. Section 2, the burden of control. When you live in this state of hypervigilance and your mind is just always trying to predict the next storm, that vigilance naturally evolves into something else entirely. It turns into a desperate need to manage the uncontrollable. Now, what's really interesting about this is how that need for control completely shifts your perspective of time. You become highly aware of long-term emotional consequences. You aren't just living in the moment anymore. You are basically playing 3D chess with your emotional life. You tend to think way, way beyond the present interaction. Like, if I make this commitment, how is it going to affect me in a year? Or if I enter this relationship, what's the ultimate emotional cost? And sure, while this definitely keeps you safe, it also creates an incredibly heavy mental load. You're constantly carrying the weight of all these future possibilities, which, as you can imagine, makes spontaneous emotional connections really, really difficult. So let's look at how this builds, because this struggle with uncertainty plays out in very specific ways in real time. Step 1, you face an unclear outcome. The situation is ambiguous and boom, immediately the anxiety spikes. Step 2, you feel absolutely compelled to gather more information. You need data, you need to investigate, you just have to figure out all those hidden variables. And finally, step 3, you create strict safeguards to maintain control. When the outcome is unclear, you lock things down. This is your psychological architecture working serious overtime to ensure you aren't caught off guard. But the hard truth, you simply cannot control everything, no matter how many safeguards you build. Section 3. Transformation through hardship. We have reached a truly pivotal moment in this explainer. This is the crucible. It's where the unstoppable force of life's unpredictability finally meets the immovable object of your defense mechanisms. Our source material highlights a really, really profound idea here. Periods of loss, betrayal, or emotional crises become important turning points. As much as you might try to control your environment and anticipate every single disaster, hardship will eventually find you. It might be a severe financial challenge, a deep personal betrayal, or a profound emotional crisis. But the powerful secret revealed here is that these are not merely tragedies. They are necessary crucibles. Your most profound emotional transformations and your absolute greatest periods of growth are forged precisely through these intense, unavoidable hardships. It is exactly the breaking of those emotional defenses that allows your real, lasting strength to be built. Section 4. Wisdom in the shadows. After all that hypervigilance, after the exhausting need for control, and after the inevitable crucible of hardship, all of that struggle finally resolves into something incredibly powerful. It resolves into mastery. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate reward of the journey. Confronting your fears builds deep, unparalleled psychological insight into human motives and vulnerability. By being forced to face the exact things you spent your entire life trying to avoid, you essentially gain a superpower. You begin to understand people on a level that very few others ever achieve. Because you know exactly what vulnerability costs, and because you've survived the worst-case scenarios, you develop a profound, resilient understanding of human nature. That exhausting hypervigilance, it transforms into quiet, powerful observation. So the crucial point is learning to separate two very distinct concepts: caution and fear. Caution protects you. It's smart, it's observant, and it keeps you safe from genuine, actual harm. But fear limits you. Fear keeps the drawbridge up even when the invading army is literally 1,000 miles away. Distinguishing between a legitimate, grounded need for caution and a limiting, irrational fear becomes the absolute defining triumph of this emotional architecture. Wisdom is knowing when caution is truly necessary. Not every shadow hides danger. I really want you to think about what this means for your own life. The absolute greatest growth you will ever experience happens when you finally stop treating every single uncertainty as a guaranteed threat. You start living in the light rather than constantly guarding against the dark. You learn that, hey, it is actually safe to put the armor down sometimes. Wisdom isn't found in expecting danger everywhere. It's found in trusting yourself enough to handle danger if it actually arrives, which allows you to finally, truly enjoy the peace when it hasn't. I want to leave you with this final, powerful question to really reflect on. Right now, in your relationships, in your career, in your daily anxieties, are you responding to reality or just anticipation? Are you fighting a battle that is actually happening right now, or are you exhausting yourself fighting the ghost of a worst-case scenario you completely invented? Take that thought with you today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep growing.